When parents are cut off from their kids after separation, or they have serious relationship problems with their kids that they want a family court judge to fix, often they ask for an alienation workshop to take the kids and fix the problem in a few days. In severe cases, those programs are often seen as the only way to reunite children with an alienated parent. Still, those programs have been banned in several U.S. states, and one of the original programs has moved to Canada as a result. There are various reasons why these programs have been criticized and even outlawed. Some relate to concerns that perpetrators of family violence use them to divert attention away from the violence or to perpetuate it. Some relate to what happens at these programs. The treatment protocols of these programs are trade secrets, and so the program providers do not publish exactly what they do. But I have litigated enough cases to have heard the testimony of treatment providers saying exactly what they do. Some people find it shocking, so I will go over it in this episode of the Ontario Family Law Podcast. I'm Schuman, a certified specialist in family law in Ontario, and I've been recognized for my concerns over children's law issues, difficult parenting cases, and complex financial matters. I'm also a mediator, arbitrator, and collaborative lawyer. This podcast is a companion to my book, Guide to the Basics of Ontario Family Law, which is available on the iBookstore, Amazon, and in fine bookstores. Parental alienation is a hard problem to fix. Some parental alienation programs say they can fix it in just 4 days. Alienation treatment or psychoeducational workshops are some of the most invasive psychological interventions to which children can be exposed to get that done. Even the program providers say that their methods only work in cases of true alienation. If the parent-child relationship problems are the result of abuse or other mental health concerns or parenting problems, these programs will not work. So it's important to get the cause of the parent-child problems right. But if the problem is alienation, then it's important for parents to know what they're going to put the kids through. The programs do not willingly reveal their methods, but the program providers have had to testify about them in court. In this episode, I will play that testimony. One more caveat. Other programs that treat alienation have different methodologies. Some are very different from others. It is important to do your research on these programs. One of the original programs, and the one that has attracted a lot of attention that has caused it to move to Toronto, is the Family Bridges program. I do have the transcript of the testimony of one of the professionals who used to run Family Bridges workshops. The words you will hear are taken directly from the transcripts, but the voice is not the person who testified, as recording Canadian court proceedings is not permitted. Also, please note that the videos you will see or the sounds you will hear are not from Family Bridges or any other programs. These programs do not permit recording of their workshops and do not release videos of what happens at them. It is most important to listen to the reading of the transcripts of what was said in court. Family Bridges requires that the children be suddenly taken by their transportation escorts directly from the courthouse immediately after the judge orders the program.
So after the decision is handed down, the court takes a brief recess to ensure that the alienating parent is not within the 5-mile radius of the courthouse. Following that, the judge asks the transport escort to come to her chambers and then invites the children to come to her in person. This is to ensure, as I said, that there's no contact between the alienating parent and the children after the decision is handed down. So there's no opportunities to say goodbye, because that can promote the children's acting out and can be difficult for the children. So we discourage any contact at that point. So the alienating parent at this point is away from the court, and the justice has the transport agents and the children in her chambers with her, and it gives her an opportunity to explain to the children what the decision is and what the specific expectations of them are to complete the Family Bridges workshop. We explain to the children, and usually the judges may do this in chambers. There's no burden on children to learn of separation and divorce where the parents don't get along. And some of those burdens are going to be put on the alienating parent as much as you can. To follow what the court orders say, and we outline what the court orders are, and then the court order to just say that the children will abide by the parent with decision-making authority, and that they had to go to Family Bridges. That would be the alienated parent. It's helpful that the children understand that the 90 days is a minimum number of days away from the alienating parent. So they need to follow along with what the expectations are to get back to the parent. And it's very helpful when the judge stipulates that it's a 90-day program and they're going to continue to monitor it. It's a minimum of 90 days and they will monitor it. It's also helpful for the courts to help the children understand that the process is non-adversarial, non-advocacy, and post-litigation, and that their hope is that both parents will understand that the gate is closed, that there's no other way back to the alienating parent if the judge makes a decision to place the children with the alienated parent, except to go through family bridges and to complete the workshop and live with that parent. What we're expecting of most kids is that they meet the approximate behaviors. And when the judge has done that, she leaves the children in the chambers with the transport agents because the children will want to have that opportunity. I'm sure they've had their voices heard in this process, but they will want that opportunity again to be able to plead to the judge what their position is. So it's better for the judge to leave the chambers and to allow the transport agents to take over. The transport agents will explain to the children that their job is to ensure their safety and that they're going to be escorting them to the place of the 4-day workshop. The escort agents will confiscate the children's electronics, and they do so by, asking for them, and most of the kids turn them over. But if there's any concern or suspicion that there are more electronics or hidden devices, then the children may be asked to remove their socks and shoes, and they may look in their luggage or backpacks and the like. And generally, the transportation team is responsible for helping the children to settle down. Children act very differently around other people than they generally do in front of their parents or decision makers. So they will generally settle down with them, and the transportation agents are trained in working with adolescents, and they help them to contain their emotions, and they are empathetic with them first off. The transportation agents are employed by a security firm. They're generally former police officers, not all, but some. They generally have a specific interest in family bridges. The transport agents have dinner with the children, and they'll stay in the room with them until the next morning when the program starts.
The use of transport agents is to convey to the children that they have no power and they must behave as ordered. This is necessary for later parts of the program to work. This approach has been criticized as not being appropriate for children who have been victim of child abuse or other forms of family violence to be trained to do just whatever an authority figure says without complaint, or that teaching children to respond to fear with obedience facilitates coercive controlling family violence. But it is critical to remember that all of the alienation treatment programs say that judges must rule out family violence as a cause of the family problems before ordering the program. The use of transport agents by alienation treatment programs is very similar to the use of transport agents by the Elan School in Maine as part of its behavioral modification programs for troubled teens. That kidnapping type of approach is meant to convey to children that they no longer are in control to make them more susceptible to other behavior modification therapies. Not every program uses transportation agents. Some reject the very concept. Most programs require that the alienating parent disappear out of the children's lives at the start of the program. In some programs, the children travel to the program with a parent they do not like. One of the criticisms of that approach is that if the kids go voluntarily to the anti-alienation program with a parent they don't get along with, then they may not be very alienated to start with. The first day of the Family Bridges program, according to the testimony, goes like this.
The transportation agents will bring the children to breakfast the next morning. They'll have breakfast with them, and then they will bring them to the room that the workshop is being conducted in, which is typically a comfortable living room kind of space with a television there and a table. Once the transportation agents come in with the children, they begin the program, and that includes an orientation to the workshop. It includes reiterating the expectations of the children, and it includes the looking at and reading some of the court orders so that the children understand what it is that the court expects of them. And then we complete a careful risk assessment of the children to determine that they're not going to harm themselves and that they're in agreement to following the rules And upon completion of that risk assessment, we will generally ask the escort agents to leave. And then following that part, the workshop is underway. The escorts have left and the workshop is underway. Usually, the location is fraught with activities for the children. At most typical resorts, there's pools and that sort of thing, games the children can play, and activities that they can participate in. And the neat part about that is that the children and the alienated parent begin to have a typical, normal relationship throughout the course of the workshop. And that includes going out at night, having dinner. The rules are to maintain a moratorium on conflict, so we won't discuss the past at that point. The children need to stay in eye contact with the alienated parent, and they need to make a commitment to not run away or act out. Somewhere towards the end of the second day or towards the third day, the children reach a decisional wall, and they are torn between the expectations of the court and the expectations of their alienating parent. It's an emotional time for them, and we need to help them through that process by letting them understand what their options are and generally what the process is to help them regain a healthy relationship with each of their parents. The families don't pass family bridges until they are able to conduct a family meeting independently, and that throughout the third day and into the last day, all of it is devoted to learning those skills, learning communication skills, learning how to be empathetic with one another. We teach them basic skills to be able to communicate, and then we watch them to demonstrate those skills in an empathetic manner, in a democratic process. So they're not leaving without, and I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear, they're not leaving without our knowing that they can pass that median. And the children are told that at the very beginning, and so does the alienated parent, that they need to pass the family meeting and need to conduct an independent family meeting before the workshop is finished. So that means that we were to have to go into a fifth day. We would have to do that. We've never done that. I've never done that. I'm sure the workshop leaders have done that, but generally the kids, once they reach that decisional wall and they've made a decision that they are going to do everything in their power to go along with the program and do what they need to do to get on board so they can see their alienating parent and things move along very quickly after that. Then the next step is that the children are able to complete the family vacation successfully. And I don't know, generally they do complete that portion. As I said, children behave very differently when they understand that this is what the court expects. And the only way they're going to get to have a healthy relationship with both parents is to complete the program. So they usually get on board, they've done their vacation, and then they come to the aftercare process, and we monitor them.
The aftercare process is a part of almost all alienation treatment programs, and it is also controversial. During the aftercare process, the children are not allowed to see the favorite parent until the children have a stable, respectful relationship with the parent that they were not getting along with, and the alienating parent also completes the program. This is supposed to take 90 days, but in many cases it can take much longer, and in some cases it goes on forever, either because the children are not able to settle down with the parent they went to the workshop with, or the favorite parent is not able to complete the aftercare program. Either because they find it offensive, it exacerbates mental health problems, the parent has some other form of disability that interferes with the completion of the program, or the program is more than the parent can afford.
The first part of the program begins with the alienating parent, and we're teaching them about the aftercare protocols and the benchmarks for success and what they need to do to demonstrate that they're meeting those benchmarks. And we also outline a timeline for the program because they're anxious to understand when they can have contact with the children again, of course. The second part includes teaching specific concepts. And that's where we use the multimedia pieces that are based in empirical research in literature with respect to how the children became alienated in the first place. And then the third part is that we're expecting at that point that the alienating parent can understand the general and specific teaching that we read, and they can integrate them into the process. And one measure of that is an apology letter to the children. And the purpose of that apology letter is both to take responsibility for their behavior, but the most important part is to give the children permission that they can have a relationship with both of the parents and that they're giving them permission to have a relationship with the other parent. We also need to ensure that the children are maintaining the games and the learning, the actual peace during the workshop, and that they're living comfortably and cooperatively with the alienated parent. At that point, we submit a report to the court, and we're requesting that new orders be provided with respect to access, because it is at that point that we will begin to integrate the children and their parent, providing they've met the benchmarks of success in the program. If the children were not settling, and we would try to outline why they weren't settling, and we generally have a good idea why children don't settle if they successfully completed the workshop, the children can contact us if they needed to, but their communication goes through and is expected to go through the rejected parent. They are expected, and they learn the skills to resolve problems within the relationship. That's part of what Family Bridges is about, and we teach them how to do that. And our expectation is this, that they would resolve minor parenting issues with the rejected parent. And that's a standard for capability of and competence of all children. If they're unable to resolve a problem and to speak with a parent, they may be unable to resolve to speak with teachers and bosses and peers. And that contributes to poor, intimate relationships and ongoing important and meaningful relationships, which are important to any child's adjustment. So we are teaching on those skills. We will begin to integrate them again through monitored office contacts and then through unmonitored community outings with the alienating parent. And then we begin to teach both the parents the parallel parenting model, because it's during that time when each of the parents has had time with the children that issues between the parents may begin to arise. And we're teaching both parents how to deal with those kinds of issues. And then finally, we're looking to the courts again to say, this is how the monitored contact has gone. This is how the unmonitored contact has gone. These are the benchmarks that the parent has made, or the benchmark that the parent has met with respect to the goals of the program. And we're looking for a more permanent access schedule at that point.
One of the additional issues raised with the parental alienation programs is that they are very expensive. The workshops run between $40,000 to $60,000, plus the cost of the transport agents, the hotel where the program takes place, food for everyone involved, the costs associated with activities for the parent and the children, and perhaps some other costs. This is all before the Aftercare program. The costs of the Aftercare program are on top of the cost of the initial workshop.
It's very difficult to stipulate what the costs are, because it's going to depend fully on the cooperation of the alienating parent. And sometimes some parents take a little longer to learn, and other parents take a little longer to accept that they need to do the program to have contact with the children again. We ask that the cost of the aftercare is paid for by the alienating parent, that they are responsible for the costs of the program, and that they're responsible for keeping up to date in the costs of the program.
It is the usual request and practice that the court order specify that the favored or alienating parent pay all the costs. The total cost of the program is usually projected to be more than the average annual salary in Canada. With respect to financial resources, the Family Bridges provider testified.
If the parent is out of money, then the process gets stopped. We're assuming that the judge is making an order for Family Bridges, both on the best interest of the children and the capability of each parent to pay for it.
There are also expectations of the children in these programs. Again, the testimony of the Family Bridges therapist was,
the children are expected to complete Family Bridges workshop and the required vacation, and to live in harmony with that parent during the course of the 90 days. So the children understand that, first off, it's helpful for the children to understand that it is the expectations of the court is that they will go forward and have a healthy relationship with both parents. And we use the word healthy because we want both parents to be able to put the alienation and the alienating behaviors or any other behaviors that have contributed to the family problems behind them and move forward. We explain to the children, and usually the judges may do this in chambers, as I said, there's no burden on children to learn of separation and divorce where the parents don't get along. And some of those burdens are going to be to help your alienating parent as much as you can. To follow what the court orders say, and we outline what the court orders are, and then it helps us for the court order to just say that the children will abide by the parent with decisional authority. And that's, as they then had to go to family bridges, that would be the alienated parent. It's helpful that the children understand that the 90 days is a minimum number of day. So they need to follow along with what the expectations are to get back to the parent. And it's very helpful when the judge stipulates that's its 90-day program and they're going to continue to monitor it. It's a minimum of 90 days and they will monitor it. It's also helpful for courts to help the children understand that the process is non-adversarial, non-advocacy, and post-litigation, and that their hope is that both parents will understand that the gate is closed, that there's no other way back to the alienating parent if the judge makes a decision to place the children with the alienated parent, except to go through family bridges and to complete the workshop and live with that parent.
Other programs are not identical to Family Bridges, but as they all claim to be based on similar research, most of the programs are very similar. They all combat alienation by disrupting a family system that permits children to reject one parent, usually by disempowering the children and teaching them that they have no choice but to love the alienated parent, at least if they ever want to see their favorite parent again. Another way this is presented is that the children are freed from the burden of having to choose which parent to love. Similarly, the alienating parent warns that he or she will never see the children again unless he or she unconditionally supports the children's relationship with the other parent. There is quite a bit of criticism of this approach, which will have to be the subject of another episode. So subscribe to find out when the new episodes come out, like this episode if you found it interesting or helpful, and hit the notification bell so that you know as soon as those new episodes come out. For now, I will just say that most programs are designed to address only deliberate alienation of the children from one parent by the other parent, but there can be a lot of other problems that can drive a wedge between parents and children. There are some programs that attempt to address other causes of parent-child conflict. Those programs look quite different. It is important to carefully figure out, usually with professional help, what makes the family dysfunctional so that the treatment program addresses the cause of those problems and does not make them worse, or even endanger the health and safety of the children or other family members. If you need some more general family law guidance, or you need to understand Ontario family law better so you can make better decisions, if you need to know how to work out different parenting situations after separation, or you need to understand how finances work in divorce, or if you need some tips for how best to make those difficult types of decisions, get a copy of my book, The Guide to the Basics of Ontario Family Law. You can access it immediately on the iBookstore, on Amazon for the Kindle version, or you can download it. Amazon can deliver the paperback version directly to your doorstep. You can also get a lot more Ontario family law information on www.schumanlaw.ca. Not only are there hundreds of pages of family law links and information, but there are links to get my book and links to reach my office to meet with either me or one of my colleagues. Because it's always best to get a lawyer who can give you expert advice that is specific to your situation. In addition to my website, keep up to date on family and children's law issues by liking my Facebook page, following me on Twitter at @SchumanFamLaw, and finding me on LinkedIn. Of course, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell to keep up to date. You can get the audio versions of the Ontario Family Law podcast on all major podcast services, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and many more. They are also available at www.schumanlaw.ca. Just look for podcasts in the drop-down menu. Thanks for participating in this podcast. We will get together again soon.